Happy Thursday, Notre Dame fans. Mike Singer, Mike Goolsby, live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel, or happy Friday for folks listening to this podcast or watching this show back. I'm Mike Singer. I run our YouTube recruiting operation here at Blue and Gold. And with me for tonight's Mike Goolsby Show is, you guessed it, the former Notre Dame linebacker and captain himself, Mr. Goolsby. This is our post-national championship show. Between all your travel, I had crap going on. You were under the weather. This is the first time we were able to connect. So, Mr. Goolsby, how are you, my friend? You look good.
Oh, I'm not bad. I'm still a little sick. It's a bear of a cold. Yeah, I think all that travel and lack of sleep, shaking a bunch of hands, didn't kiss any babies. Thankfully, I didn't want to spread anything around. That was the sickest I've ever been. Yeah, you and I were supposed to go Sunday, and I just couldn't make it happen. So. But no, great to be here. There's a lot to catch up on. You and I finally got a chance to meet in person, which was
legendary,
nice.
Mike. It was great.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, tell everybody that you're on your tippy toes.
I really wasn't. Dude, you know how many people responded and said, look at this first response here. Dang, Singer, thought you're like 5'10". Singer stature never doesn't surprise me. Bro, how tall are you?
He was on his tippy toes. He wanted to take the picture twice. He's on his tippy toes. But nevertheless, it was great to meet you.
It was good to meet you. The tailgate was a lot of fun. Met some cool people. One weird guy, but overall, it was a really neat, for just one weird person at a tailgate where you're just kind of inviting strangers. That's a really damn good turnout. I had a lot of fun. It's great to meet Luis and everyone. So I got to meet your dad. Your dad was awesome. Rick, I won't mention what goes before that, but he was a great guy. He's a great guy.
I get that a lot. A lot of folks meet my dad and they're like, "Man, what a great guy!" And it's like,
it's awesome.
So he was thrilled. That was a lot of fun to make some father-son memories. And I think Luis was actually fortunate enough to get into the game. I think he finally got his hands on some tickets, which is amazing.
So he went from California to Atlanta without a ticket and got it. So that's incredible.
With a hope and a prayer. Yeah, man. So, the tailgate worked out. It was fun just to kind of send out a tweet and see. And my poor dad might have went home with an extra 200 beers because you didn't have time to drink them all. So he's got beer to last him probably through the summer.
I love it. Yeah. Good time. Yeah, you throw up a table and get a cooler, and it was a great time. It was a great time. The Always Irish flag was flying. But I loved it, Mike. It was great to meet you. So let's talk a little bit maybe about the game itself. How many times have you been able to rewatch it, Mike?
The TV copy once, and then the actual film. We just got through the film 2 nights ago. And I'll tell you, you were at the game. I don't know what it felt like to sit there to watch it on your couch at home, but to be there in person, that first half, really the second quarter, it felt bad. Like, it felt awful. It felt like the Penn State first half, very much so, right? But to watch the film, and it makes you really jump back as a player, because some of these games you think you played terrible, and then you watch the film, and you're like, actually, I played pretty good. It wasn't as bad as I thought. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems, the film. There's always room for improvement. And then there's always positives to claim. But boy, I tell you, Singer, watching the tape, specifically the offensive side, not so much the defensive side for once, but there was a lot that we left on the table, man. It was a lot closer than people realized. I mean, I think they really took us behind the woodshed as far as their offense versus our defense. They were just humming, and they did the same thing to Texas. So this isn't necessarily about what Golden did or didn't do or how we couldn't match up, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, Texas had their hands full too. Ohio State had really hit their stride at the right time. But offensively, Denbrock called a damn good game. Riley had a couple easy missed throws like he does, but he made a couple miraculous throws. And it was just that second and third series, a couple of the missteps, like a Bo Collins jumping off sides. The way that offense was playing, you couldn't sustain mistakes like that in an environment like that. So it was tough, but hopefully it was the the closest game in as many years, closest margin of victory in as many years in a championship game. So I think there's a lot that team can look back on and be like, man, even though we played like that, we were still in it.
The atmosphere, Mike. Electric, dude. Where were you sitting? You're sitting in the 100 somewhere, right?
Section 113, row 11. So we had great seats.
You're actually close to the parents. I wonder if anyone looked over at you and gave you some daggers.
Well, we were with the parents. I got player tickets.
Oh, I was about to say I could have sworn 113 was. Very nice. Well, maybe you got some hard eyes then.
Why would I get any daggers?
Oh, I don't know, Mike.
No, yeah, Cam Williams' parents. I think it was his people kind of sat behind us, so it was a ton of fun. But yeah, the atmosphere was. I filmed a quick video right before that game was kicking off, and I could hardly hear myself, and I was kind of covering my voice when I was speaking. And multiple people said on Twitter, like, "Jesus, Goolsby, how many beers did you drink?" Because I must have sounded drunk, and I wasn't drunk. I was emotional. I was like, I had like a knot in my throat, so it kind of changes the inflection of your voice when you're that emotional. But that was the most emotional I've been maybe ever, because I was like, just that environment, Singer. You kind of look back as an ex-player and you're like, man, what a blessing it was that I got a chance to even be involved in a sport like this. And not that I played a national championship, but it was really something. It was really something to, the early, like, to just build up to the game. The national anthem was beautiful. It was really something.
Yeah, Goolsby's right around here somewhere.
That's right.
Right around there. Yeah, dude. This is the opening kickoff I filmed and put on Twitter. I've been in the stadium many times. And yeah, nothing has come close to the spectacle that was. And the press box was really neat. I was there till I think 3 a.m. So yeah, it was neat. But yeah, Mike, I mean, just like a talk about this season, and folks watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel for more content. If you listen via podcast, leave us a 5-star review. Write out why you're leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. But Mike, as we kind of reflect on the season, Notre Dame reaching that national championship game, ultimately falling in it, it ends with a sour taste. But dude, beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, beating Penn State in the Orange Bowl, beating A&M on the road, beating USC on the road. It was a truly a special season, dude. And the future is still very bright with this football program. It's not like they, laid it all on the line for this year and they're going to have to rebuild next year. Now this team's reloading.
No, absolutely. Incredibly special season. Many points of doubt throughout. I can remember us talking about the USC game and talking with John about the USC game. I mean, there's a lot of people biting their fingernails for a USC game. Same for an Indiana, because everything was so, that level of success, it was so kind of new and almost uncharted in a way, especially for a Freeman. So yeah, special season, and it's a nice segue. Excuse me. Special season before we all move on and start arguing about who's going to play frickin' quarterback, I just felt it was right to kind of pay a little bit of homage to some of the outgrowing group of older guys. You know better than me in terms of who's in what class and did they come in together, et cetera. But like, you start off talking about like a Xavier Watts. He's truly a legend. And he made a couple plays in this game, specifically one on that wheel route to that running back where they kind of went up for it 50-50. I mean, he was doing everything he could to make that like vintage Xavier Watts type play.
And we know he needed it. Needed it, dude.
Oh, and if you really watch it, like the way he's running with that back, and then the foot that he jumps off of, like to even have like the sense to try to even go attack the ball and come down with it. It was a remarkable play that like many that he's made that we'll forget about. But Xavier Watts, Riley Mills, been here forever, and really put it together. Kind of had a slow start to the season, but really put it together. And hopefully he has enough kind of dominant tape where as he goes into the NFL, they can overlook this injury, because I don't know if he's going to get a chance to work out. And he would have worked out really, really well. Howard Cross, All-American last season, wounded warrior, dude. The poor kid. It's not the way he would have drawn it up, but just basically played the whole season on one ankle. And just underrated leadership, I think, in particular. Mitch Evans, another kid's been through a ton, coming back to the injury. He had a slow start. I thought he played great in the championship game. Pat Coogan, he'll be a fan favorite for a lot of folks for many years to come. Obviously, he's going to go play elsewhere. I don't think he's announced yet. But he and Rocco Spindler both probably – and Rocco played hurt, it seemed like, half the year. But both of those kids probably exceeded people's expectations and probably played beyond maybe even like their God-given ability at times. So just kids to be proud of. I thought Jordan Clark was an awesome player for us at nickel. Again, leadership, great tackler, great cover guy. I think he's going to carve out a nice little NFL career. You could talk about the receivers that left. Jaden Thomas, another fan favorite guy. He battled a hamstring. It was great early in his career, but and even Deion Colsey, and I've been hard on Deion Colsey, but he had his moments. And you talk about being a team guy, with his size and everything, he's used primarily as a blocker this season, kind of sealing edges. But Jack Kaiser's another one. That son of a gun, dude, plays in 70-plus games for us, plays an NFL season, plays 16 games, takes 2 days off, probably slept for 2 days straight, heads down to Mobile, Alabama. He's working out for NFL teams. It's just incredible to me.
And balling.
Is he? I haven't had a chance to watch any coverage.
Yeah, seems to be balling out. Lots of interceptions. And, yeah.
It's great. Because you just think about the wear and tear, and they evaluate those kids with their shirts off. Like, that poor kid hasn't had a solid workout in like 4 months. You know what I'm saying? And then I think last but not least is, maybe I forgot anybody. Forgive me if I did, but talking about Riley Leonard, you talk about this season and you talk about him. It's been pretty remarkable, man, how the guy misses spring ball, shows up here on a scooter, just gets us out of Texas A&M alive, continues to kind of improve. I always felt like there was a little bit of a rev limiter in terms of maybe Marcus Freeman's expectations for him in terms of what he did with the ball and how aggressive he was. I always felt like he was a little bit caught in limbo. But just the competitiveness. And I even think about the kid was supposed to be a Division I basketball player, gets one football offer, plays on a smaller stage where the lights aren't as bright at a Duke. Gets to a Notre Dame, man, with that all shucks personality, and then winds up playing under the brightest of lights in a national championship, puts the team on his back, first drive, 8 carries, remarkable player.
9 carries is incredible. That drive
incredible.
Just
falls on the ball, he's vomiting on the sidelines. It's just, man.
When you rewatch that game, just turn it off after that first drive. That first drive was Notre Dame to a T. Like, that was exactly what they wanted. The one guy only person I could think of that you didn't mention was Mills. That would have slipped your mind, Mike, unless you did talk about Riley Mills.
I did talk about Riley Mills.
Then I missed that. That's my bad. Yeah.
So either way, like I said,
it's a great group, man.
We're so quick to move on and turn the page. And it's like we talked about really soaking in this run as a fan base as it was ongoing. And I just think, who knows what these kids are going to turn into in the NFL, if anything. And there's been so many great players that have come through this program and not named Tim Brown or not named Jerome Bettis or Ricky Waters, et cetera, Manti Te'o. But there's this group in particular, the leadership and the kind of the toughness they showed on top of their talents. It's just like, I think it's fun to just, take one quick look back before we move on to 2025 and all the things in front of us.
Okay, two more guys I want to talk about before we look ahead. As the title of this show does say, reflecting on 2024 season, we're going to look ahead to 25 and react to some changes in the Goog. Marcus Freeman and Al Golden. So Al Golden obviously is one of those coaching updates from the season with him going to the Bengals. So I'm curious your thoughts kind of parting to him with him going back to the NFL as a defensive coordinator with the Bengals. And then Freeman, like just thinking back to maybe thoughts you had after NIU to how you feel about him now, Mike, and the job that he did in really turning this season around.
Yeah, I mean, Al Golden, generally speaking, was great for us. It was fantastic for us. How good, we'll never know. I'm sure we'll talk about Mickens and the DC role, co-DC role, however that's going to shake out. But as good as Al Golden was, you couldn't have an Al Golden. Oh, you know who I forgot, Singer, in terms of players? Benjamin Morrison.
Oh,
Benjamin Morrison moving.
Yeah.
Shame on me. And we know how I feel about BMO, but Golden couldn't play the scheme he plays without the secondary that he had, without a Jordan Clark, without a Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, Benjamin Morrison. So it's interesting. He gets a ton of credit, but I'm quick to kind of redirect that credit to the secondary because we played so much, man, you couldn't do it. You couldn't run that scheme without him. But he left the program, left the defense, left the cupboards with a lot more talent than he had when he got here. So you don't have a bad thing to say about him. Was he a little bit distracted in the championship game? Perhaps. I think it's entirely reasonable. Because as I've tried to show people on Patreon watching the All-22 most weeks doing the entire game, there'll be 2 to 4 snaps a game on defense where it's not entirely sound, Singer, where we'll leave somebody uncovered or there's a gap open. And it's always done so in the name of pressure. Like we can get by leaving that running back uncovered because we're going to get home and we're going to affect the quarterback. But in this game, there was a dozen kind of those head scratcher, like, what are we doing on defense? Where it just wasn't sound. And Chip Kelly kind of outdueled him in that matchup, and Will Howard was humming. So, I mean, we walked into a buzzsaw for sure, but not the best game plan that I've seen from Golden on the defensive side of the ball. But I have nothing for respect for that dude. Nothing but respect.
Good. Freeman?
Oh, shoot, Freeman. I mean, he came into his own. Said it many times on here. Anybody that'll listen, it was like, I had my doubts after Northern Illinois because you'd seen this movie before. Then you didn't like what he was saying pregame on the field and on the on-field pregame interview. You didn't like what he was the way he was kind of carrying himself in press conferences and sort of the demeanor on the sideline. And then it all shifted. And I believe, and when he writes a book one day, we'll know what took place and what set this whole thing off. But I really felt like he had a man in the mirror moment. And he was like, I got to do me. And there might have been an element to Marcus Freeman coming here as a first-time head coach with all of the things that make Notre Dame, and all of the things that are so sacred about this place and this program and the traditions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's trying to please a lot of people and probably trying to stay in some sort of a lane. And after that Northern Illinois loss, I think he kind of bet on himself and he just coached with his true character and his true personality and his true, fire, and kind of got back into that Big Ten linebacker DNA, and it worked out. And I think the kids follow him through the gates of hell. I really do.
Yeah, love it.
That was fun to watch, man. It was fun to watch. It's like, as you would say, injected into our veins, dude.
Fun team, man. Fun season, long season, one that will never forget for as much talk as, oh man, yeah, reload for next year, which they will. But you just never know when you're going to get back to a national championship game. It's not a once in a lifetime thing, but is it like a once in a decade kind of thing? Especially, it's not just go undefeated and making the top two. You're playing for a title game. It's you got to win 3 if you're Notre Dame. So you beat 3 top 10 teams in Indiana, Penn State, and Georgia, and got the monkey off your back for winning that postseason, big postseason game, and they did it twice. And you could even argue a third if you want to say the Indiana game, but it was incredible, Mike. Yeah, we've been doing this show for a while. I think you can call us the longest standing YouTube live show, and it's been a ride where we've had some really boring seasons, and this one, man, was super special. It really was. Few super chats, Mike. Michael Crawley says, love this team. Fun question for both of you. If you could bring back one player from the last 3 years to add to next season's roster, who would that be and why? Position need, leadership, talent, etc.
Oh,
one
just
player.
off the top of my head, maybe Riley Leonard.
That's exactly who I was thinking, man.
And I was going to say like a Kyron Williams, but I can't. He was within that 3-year window we're talking about?
Yeah. That's like
it'd probably be Riley Leonard.
It has to be Riley Leonard. I mean, Kyron would be nice, but you got Jay. I mean, you have a 3-headed freak show running back group next year. So yeah, it's got to be Riley. And this is someone who loves Stevie Boy. I still would take Riley.
Yeah, like if you just kind of think about it, it's like Kyron Williams had to go. Right, he's a running back. Like he had to go. Xavier Watts coulda, shoulda gone last year. It's like you got to go. But like Riley, there's still so much more development to be had. And as fun as he was to watch, he was equal parts frustrating at times, like in this game. But yeah, I think Riley Leonard's my answer. But a really fun question.
Yeah, Joe Alt's getting a shout out. RJ Oben. Yeah. Watts.
RJ Oben's another one that's outgoing, but he made a play. One time he made a play.
And apparently he's been doing pretty well at the Senior Bowl too. So it's like damn, man. Good for you. I forget who just did that super chat. Michael, appreciate you. $10. How do you balance testing out players in different positions, snap across the line, burn them at the end versus Viper, versus establishing continuity or holding competitions at one spot? Mr. Goolsby, do you have any thoughts on this? Really appreciate the $10 super chat.
No, it's a really smart question. Hang on. How do you balance testing out players in different positions versus continuing continuity or holding competitions at one spot? How do you balance it? I don't know how to answer. Like, how do you balance it?
Like, do you just keep Knapp at left tackle, or is it just like a case-by-case thing?
Well, I think Knapp at left tackle was a need. If you're looking at that roster, it was like, okay, who can we slide out there physically? So, and it's interesting. It's like, testing players at different spots, like experimenting. It's not really an experiment. It's like you'd have an idea based off of measurables and a body type and a play style, and you're like, maybe he could fit over there. But it's not like just necessarily an experiment. But when the question about balancing, I can't really speak to that. Help me out with that, Singer. It's a smart question. It's just worded funny.
You went to Notre Dame. I don't know.
How do you balance test? Because I want to give it its due. How do you balance out testing players in different positions versus establishing continuity?
Like keeping guy in a spot.
I guess I do. Yeah.
Like keeping guy in one spot versus testing him out somewhere else.
Perfect. Maybe. So maybe if somebody's not like Knapp's not like I got it now. He's not like a conventional tackle because he's 6'4", probably. I don't know what the arm length is, but he's just not how you would draw it up. And he's not the way Notre Dame offensive linemen are tracking, like with this commitment we got today, Tyler Merrill, like big boy, big boy. So but there was a need there. So it's like, okay, he can play tackle, but where is he going to have his best fit? Is kind of the way it works in my mind.
I think this is the second time this guy sent a super chat in. Brother, you're gonna have to let me know how to pronounce your name. You'll have to let me know. Appreciate it.
They say, hey, Shakir. Shakir.
Hey, Shakir, I like it. Mark Washington said, if we had Mills during that championship game, do you think we would have won? Like a healthy Riley Mills?
Last thought on that question, too.
Okay.
You're always looking for the most ability. So I think sometimes it's a balance between know-how in terms of like a Mike linebacker that can get players lined up. Like he has the smarts and he has the coach's trust. But maybe you have other players that have maybe a little bit more physical tools. So it's like you're always trying to get those kids more ramped up in terms of like the confidence level and the experience level. You're always trying to put the best athlete on the field, if that makes sense.
This can be as simple as a yes or no, Mike. Do you think Notre Dame wins the game with Mills? Definitely could have used him, man. Like
it'd be too strong to say that yes, we would. I try to avoid absolutes in general, but it would have given us a better shot for sure.
Yeah.
Now,
thank you, Mark.
That being said, I've tried to make it clear there's no drop off between a Riley Mills playing a run and Gabriel Rubio playing a run, in my opinion. I think I would probably prefer Gabe Rubio. Gabe Rubio had an awesome season, just so people know, and he got a lot better from last season. But where Riley really helped us out was on third downs. So between, Gabe's not going to give you much of a pass rush. Cross with one ankle, it's tough. So it's like if you would have had a healthy Cross and a Riley Mills, it might have been a different story, sure.
One more super chat, and then we're going to keep moving on with the show. Mark says, why didn't Notre Dame call timeout when 29 was jumping up and down? The ball was going to the running back. Yeah, Mike, I saw you tweeted something about this. I haven't been able to watch your video. I feel like every single time I see the tweet, got my daughter sleeping on me. But you talked about this in a video. That was very strange. I heard that he was signaling that it should have been a false start, but I don't think that made sense. What was your read? He's trying to get the ref's attention that it was a false start when
Christian Gray's done that more than once. Like I think if he identifies something, I mean, he's jumping up and down like a kangaroo. I've seen him do that more than once on tape, but like in that instance with it being a touchdown, people really grabbed onto it. It seemed like maybe he saw formation wise that it was going to be a reverse or something like that. And then he did that, orbit or not an orbit motion, but like he was going to run a reverse. Then he came back out into the flat. And the reason that I highlighted it and tweeted it was not to throw stones at Christian Gray or his play or anything like that, but it was just the second of many kind of like head scratcher, like what the F plays in that game. Because Jeremiah Smith goes and Christian Gray is trying to follow him, and it's an impossible ask for the young man in the first place. But then when Jeremiah Smith comes back, there goes Christian Gray just running off. It was man on that snap, and it was like he just got lost. Like he just kept running into like the band. It was weird. It was just a weird snap overall, but an impossible cover for him. And it's just sometimes when you're watching tape, it's like you say like, oh, they got us on this one. And that was a big one. Like, oh, they got us. They called a better play than we had a better defense drawn up.
So Notre Dame does have a new defensive coordinator for next season. The Irish are set to hire former Rutgers head coach Chris Ash, who spent this past season with the Jacksonville Jaguars, kind of in a transition year, I would call it, with the Raiders a couple years before as their defensive backs coach. That didn't work out, with that team. Jaguars in 2021, I believe that was Urban Meyer year. Yeah, that was a disaster. And then he was with Texas before that, Rutgers for a few years as head coach, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and it was Ohio State's co-DC when the Buckeyes won that championship when the 14 playoffs started. So, this is your DC, and it looks like Mickens is going to stay as well. I wouldn't write that in stone. There's going to be NFL teams, maybe other college teams that are going to maybe try to change that. Possibility of Mickens, I don't know. I feel like it won't be a co-DC thing. Maybe it will be. I don't feel like it will be, but I could see Mickens getting like he's definitely going to get some more money, and I could see like a associate head coach or something like that. But thoughts on Chris Ash to Notre Dame, and then maybe would you have liked it to just gone to Mickens, or what are your thoughts about Mickens right now, Mike?
Well, I don't think you can talk about Ash without talking about Mickens, Singer. It's curious. There's a lot of redundancy between, because Mickens is coaching the safeties right now as well. Yes, Mike?
Yes. So, overseas them.
I mean, obviously there's GAs involved, et cetera, right. But there's a lot of redundancy between Ash's background and it's not like he was a linebacker coach or he was a defensive line coach. It was like he spent a lot of time coaching up the secondary in his whole career. So it's coordinator or he's affiliated with the secondary. So it's like there's a lot of redundancy there. And then we know coaches and egos, and you could do some digging on Ash, and there's some reports out there that he thinks pretty highly of himself, or it's his way or the highway. He's had a ton of stops in his career. Like, I mean, the longest he'll stay somewhere is 2 years. So is that either his decision or somebody else's decision? I don't know. But it just seems a little odd to me, just with the redundancy. And then if these young men are in love with Coach Mickens, he's the guy that recruited him. He's the guy that's going to get him to the NFL. And then you've got a new boss coming into play who has his own opinions. That'll be interesting just to see how that plays out. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you're kind of like, I feel like you're circling around your take. Just give it like,
I don't really have a take. I don't know. The guy's had a lot of stops.
Okay. So you think
the guy's had a lot of stops.
He's a journeyman who could cause some friction with Mickens because
I'm just saying. So it's like if I'm a lifetime secondary coach and Mickens is a secondary coach, has established himself, he's totally changed the corner position at Notre Dame, which is the biggest bugaboo forever for the program. And he changed it. He improved it. And now you've got another like layer of coaching in the same position room. And you presume that he has his own way of coaching that might go up against Mickens' own way of coaching. It just seems like if he was a defensive line guru, or if he was like a linebacker kind of guy, like a Bob Diaco or something like that, it just seems like there's a lot of redundancy is all. So
the one thing I would say is that he is safeties primarily.
Fair enough.
Mickens, you usually don't have just a DB's coach. It's usually safeties and corners.
Yep.
And Notre Dame had basically 2 linebackers coaches, right? Golden being a linebackers guy, and then Bola as well. So I feel like if anything, this kind of balances it out a little bit more. And the other thing I'll say about Mickens is, like, who knows what he's thinking right now? If he has defensive coordinator gigs just like piling up, like, oh man, all the schools are interested in him for that spot, or maybe something in the NFL. I don't know off the top of my head what's really out there. If he does have all that, then he's probably thinking, yeah, screw that. Like, I should be getting this Notre Dame DC job. Look at everyone else wants me. But if he's not, and like maybe he's like, oh man, it's not my time yet. It's not my time yet. I'll get a pay bump, maybe a little title bump, and I'll work with Chris Ash. Maybe learn from him a little bit. Maybe I'm looking glass.
No,
3/4 full.
I don't have a take as of yet. But I do think that there's an opportunity to learn, because if you look at the resume, Ash is going to be here a year or 2. And then it's like, okay, hey, that's there's going to be 2 ships passing in the night. They're here for a year or so. And then Mickens, okay, you got groomed a little bit under Ash, and now it's time for you to run the show. Maybe. And if that was the plan with Mickens, this is all speculation, but if those conversations with Mickens and Freeman are taking place behind the closed doors. Like you're almost ready, but you're not quite ready to be our defensive coordinator. Who can I go find that'll be here for a short bit? It's Chris Ash.
That would be awesome. I would love that. I mean, that would be perfect, right?
But if we hired this guy and we somehow lose Mickens because of it,
yeah.
Just saying.
So I was asked on my show last night with Tim, like, what's from 1 to 10? 1 is he's 100% staying. 10 is he's 100% going. What's the chances that Mickens leaves? And I said like a 3.5 or 4. I think he's staying. Like the intel suggests that, and I think he's staying. Like that's what the sources are saying. So that would be great.
And the other thing too, because like I said, I mean, you can read some stuff out there about Ash where he's not like, I didn't write the shit. I'm just saying it's out there. Like he's maybe not the most likable guy in the world. But I can tell you who is, and that's Al Golden. So that it's just going to be an interesting dynamic between these players. They've been in Golden's scheme, and he's just such an easy guy to like and like respect, matter of factly, with his background as a player and where he's been, NFL experience, all that. Not that Ash doesn't have that, but I think he's got big shoes to fill in terms of that locker room and leading these young men as well. So we'll see. I don't really have strong feelings about it as of yet.
Okay. What about this one, Mike? Do you have strong feelings about Chad Bowden leaving for USC, and then Texas Tech GM James Blanchard emerging as Notre Dame's top target for the position? Blanchard, you do research on him. This guy is a stud. So I'll go the 40 on this one. I'm really curious for your thoughts on Bowden and Blanchard.
I don't have as strong of feelings about Bowden leaving as many in the press probably do, but I think Bowden was an energy guy. I think Bowden was kind of like, he was an energy guy, a vibe guy. I think he shifted, like, again, it's a drinking game at home. Every time I say energy, take a shot. But like he shifted the energy in recruiting at Notre Dame. How was he as an evaluator? Who's to say? I've seen him and Freeman interviewed a couple different times, and Freeman will kind of razz Chad about like, well, you missed on this kid or you missed on that kid, kind of messing with him a little bit. But I don't think he's going to be a huge loss. I really don't. Blanchard, on the other hand, I think he'll have a different level of respect from players, whereas like Chad was your boy. I don't know if I see James Blanchard playing, what's the game, Singer? What's the video game all the kids were playing where you fall out of the sky? Fortnite. I don't know if I see James Blanchard playing Fortnite with kids in the way that a Chad Bowden did. I don't know if I see James Blanchard dressing up like a freaking leprechaun the way Chad Bowden did. So it's two separate approaches to this thing. Like where I saw Chad Bowden interviewed with Marcus Freeman, and like he was just so proud of himself for the Club Lucky thing where they throw a fake party photo shoot for the kids, which is all novel and it's very fun for Notre Dame. But I don't know if do we have like elite recruiting under Chad Bowden necessarily? Hard to say. How much, Now, Blanchard, I watched a podcast with him earlier today, or listened to it rather.
Yeah.
And they asked him a question, and they were like, while he's at Texas Tech, and the question was like, if I'm a young man coming out of Pennsylvania or Kentucky or Indianapolis, like, how can I get a roster spot at Texas Tech? And the first thing he said was, he goes, listen, fellas, he's like, I love freak athletes. And he's like, if you're a freak athlete, and then the next sentence out of his mouth, he starts talking about running track. And I was like, oh, be still my heart, as a guy that loves track times. And he goes, he said, almost verbatim, he said, if we're going to line up against Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, is the 3 schools he cited. And he goes, I might not get as good of a pound for pound football player i.e. star ranking, but he's like, I can get a freak athlete. He's like, that's what I'm going to go after. And I think Tim and I talked about this at one point, and it's like the dearth of talent at wide receiver at Notre Dame, traditionally speaking, the last few years, specifically the lack of just top end speed, save for a couple kids. It's like, give me all the track times from all over the country. I want to see film from every sub 10-5 guy in the country at the wide receiver position. So I love the way that he's going to do it. And then beyond that, he runs the thing like an NFL GM, meaning the coaches don't necessarily. What did Bill Parcells say? If I'm going to cook the meal, at least let me shop for my own groceries. Remember that expression? So they don't get to shop for their own groceries, Singer. So Blanchard is the one identifying and targeting and say, you go recruit these kids. So that'll be an interesting, because that was another big topic of conversation, was how do you get trust from these coaches whose livelihoods are attached to the success of these players. And that's his big challenge, is to get a tight ends coach or to get an offensive line coach to trust his eyeballs and his evaluation. These are the athletes we want to pursue.
So you're all on board.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is, the adults are in the room.
NIL, roster management, recruiting, scouting, like he's got the background for all of it. Like, I think that year he spent with the Panthers was good for him to just have a scouting season where he didn't recruit, didn't have to deal with anything else, just scouted in the NFL. Like, if this works out for Notre Dame, and my sources indicate that it's likely that it will, I think you're really fired up if you're a Fighting Irish fan. And you think like, man, Mike, you guys are trying to sell me on the Texas Tech guy. He's widely considered a top 5 GM in college football. Like, I was told that Freeman's top 2 guys, now, take it with a grain of salt. It's just one source, but Freeman's top 2 guys were Blanchard and then a guy, I'm not going to name drop it, but it's a national championship level team that's like, you make the call and you make the person say no. Like, that was that person. So, Blanchard is making $400K a year right now at Texas Tech. I would say whether he stays or goes, the guy's probably, at least doubling his yearly salary. Like, that Chad Bowden thing, and it being $1 million and it being very, very public, that reset the market for the whole GM thing. And I guess the Courtney Morgan guy, is that Bama? He was getting paid $800,000. That really started it. But then Bowden getting $1 million was like, damn. So these GMs getting paid a lot of money. It's a very important job when you're talking about the future of your team, Mike. With the NIL is so important, transfer portal so important, high school recruiting. You're overseeing all of it. It's a really important job.
Yeah, so. I just, like I said, I really tend to trust the evaluation process and trust the reputation. And the other thing too, like, and I go back to, because I'd seen Bowden and Freeman on that Wake Up the Echoes YouTube show that they do. It's like, it's a Notre Dame production, but they've been together so long. It's almost as if the energy between those two, Chad and Marcus, where as Chad's his little brother, it's like Marcus is always kind of, he messes with him like he's his little brother. And I think it's going to be a totally different energy between Blanchard and Marcus going forward.
Yeah. So you mentioned that from the Notre Dame point of view. Me thinking about it from the Bowden point of view, I think that's why he wanted to go. It's like, I want to be my own man. I was told USC was pursuing him for a while. How long, I don't know. But they were pursuing him for a while, and it's going to take a lot for him to leave Notre Dame. But they gave him everything he asked for, from what I was told, like everything. So, yeah, but you get Blanchard, man. It's like, it might be Notre Dame might be cruising, and Tech does incredible in the portal. So it's like, what can he do? I don't know, man. There's a lot of reasons to be excited, but like Freeman and Bowden had been together for what, 7 years, something, 6-7 years. Like, it's a long time to be together. And I know, like, got Jeff Quinn and Brian Kelly that were together like 30 years, like an old married couple. But it's a while for a couple guys to be together, and especially for that brother relationship. So it doesn't surprise me either. A week or so to reflect, Mike. So
yeah, but yeah, like I said, Chad brought a lot of energy. We were talking about it on Patreon the other day, and I think I called him a court jester. Like, that's the vibe I always got from Chad.
Just one ND gal said, "We seriously going to get outbid by Texas Tech? Please, anything more?" I would say, like, I would compare this to just like a normal job, like an office job. Like, you like where you're at now. Say if you're making 50 where you're at now, well, this other company's offering me 100, but like I like where I'm at now. Can you offer me 75? Or something like that. Like, but Texas Tech in that scenario might offer 60, and then he could go to Notre Dame and make 100. Something like that. It's not a perfect apples to apple thing, but I think he's going to give Texas Tech the chance to counter, and I don't think they're going to be able to get near what Notre Dame is, and I think he's going to be excited to go.
It's an interesting point. So I think you touched on this. A big part of these guys' role is to negotiate with these agents that all cropped up out of nowhere, right? All these NIL agents. So dude knows how to negotiate, clearly. So if he's negotiating on his behalf,
I'm sure he's got an agent himself.
Agent of his own. Yeah. Say that again?
Yeah, I'm sure. That's what I said. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be shrewd about it. It's a big decision. So I hope he asks for outside of the money. I hope other things factor in, like academics or undergrad transfers, all these other things. But he's got to be excited. He's got to be excited to go work with one of the hottest young coaches in college football.
There's got to be something too as well. Now, I'm not James Blanchard, so but if I am, you win. You go to Notre Dame and you build that team, because like you're going there to build the team. Like, that's the job. Recruiting, NIL, which is keeping. When we say NIL, so much of that is keeping players, right? It's also landing players from the transfer portal. It's also keeping players. So it's incomings, outgoings. You're managing the entire show. You win a national championship at Notre Dame. It's not the same winning the national championship at places that have done it recently, but Bama, Ohio State, Georgia. Texas Tech would be the same. He's not winning a national championship at Texas Tech. I'm sure he knows that, but he could at Notre Dame. And dude, you win it at Notre Dame, a place with that tradition in South Bend, Indiana. It hasn't won a title since '88. You going to win it there, man. You're an absolute legend. So
I have one other thought.
Okay.
No, but you're right. 100%. Back to the juxtaposition between a Chad Bowden and Blanchard, Freeman somewhere in the middle. I was watching this it was the Wake Up the Echo show from signing day this year. And they were talking about evaluating kids, and Freeman likes what? Violence, physicality. That's his branding, right? That's his DNA. Big Ten linebacker. And those two, Chad and Marcus, were talking about evaluating kids. Like, you look at like a Drake Bowen, super physical kid, super physical kid. And Marcus was talking about, are they a head turner? So on contact, can they put their face in somebody's chest, or do they turn their head on contact when they go to make a tackle? And so much of Marcus Freeman's recruiting success has been built around the defensive side of the ball, Singer. It really has. And then as you were talking about winning a natty at a Notre Dame, I was just replaying that James Blanchard interview I'd listened to. And what's he talking about? Speed. So Marcus is looking for physicality, and obviously, but like James Blanchard looks for speed. So maybe James Blanchard's eye might lend itself more to getting offensive weapons more so than what Freeman's kind of become accustomed to. Just something about it.
Okay. Mike, moving along here, the Notre Dame 2025 football schedule. I'm curious. I want to know from Notre Dame fans in the chat. So get your typing fingers ready. Do you think this schedule is easier or more difficult than 2024? Now, in 2024, you're like, USC is going to be a top 25 team at the worst. Like Florida State's going to be top 10, top 15 team. Things change right during the season versus preseason. You didn't think Navy and Army would be two of the better teams on your schedule. Long way to say, like, looking at this, Mike, you go 2-0. I feel like you're going 12-0. There's no MAC teams, thank God. You start 2-0, you're going 12-0. Do you agree?
I don't know about that, but I was looking at this last night and I was like, this is a tough schedule, Singer.
Really? Okay, tell me about it.
Oh my God! Especially as a Notre Dame playing the schedule, it's so like at Miami, tough game. A&M at home, tough game.
Yeah.
Purdue, not so much. Arkansas, still an SEC school. I don't care what you say. Boise State, they made the playoff. Okay. NC State, they're a very above average football team. USC, tough game. At a Notre Dame, I never beat Boston College in my 4 years, so maybe this is just scar tissue. But like a Notre Dame and a Boston College, that's a big game for those kids. And to go play at Boston College for a Notre Dame team, that's a tough game. Navy is a tough game. Pitt, I mean, for a Notre Dame, I feel like it's a tough game.
40-3 last time they played at Pitt. I mean, I guess it just depends if Pitt's a train wreck or not.
It kind of
I
depends.
have high hopes for next year
if
now.
If we played at Syracuse, I'd be like, Syracuse plays great at home. Great first half home bet for any degenerate gamblers out there. But I don't chalk Syracuse up as like a cakewalk. I mean, they're a well-coached team. They're going to play tough. I was looking at it last night, and I'm like, man, there's 5-6 legitimate tough games.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
I don't know if we looked at the schedule at all.
It might be a deeper schedule. Yeah. So when I looked at it, I was like, man, it seems similar to last year's. But I just feel like if you're 2-0 and you avoid, knock on wood, catastrophic injury, I feel like you're going 12-0. Like I just don't see Notre Dame having, and you never do until it happens, but I don't see them having a Marshall or NIU. I just don't. I don't with this schedule because it's good. Like every team, like there's not all right, we can skip the Thursday practice kind of thing. Like to use your line. So I don't know. I feel like this could be.
Well, it wasn't my line.
Run.
It wasn't my line. It was Freeman's decision to skip.
I'm quoting you because I never heard that independently. I've only heard that through you. So I'm just nodding to you.
That was common knowledge. They did a walkthrough on the Thursday before NIU.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I heard anyway. But nevertheless, we made it to the national championship. But no, I looked at this game last night and I was like, heesh. But maybe that's just some scar tissue because, Pitt was a tough game when I played there. I'm telling you, Navy's a tough game. That USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse stretch. I mean, specifically Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse. When you talk about a culture of a program, sure, we can out-athlete them, you'd like to think. But that's a tough slate of games. Where like that's like Notre Dame is their Super Bowl type thing to me.
If you go through Notre Dame's position by position, you say what's better, 24, 25, because Tim and I did this a few weeks ago. It's like 25, like this roster is loaded. We'll talk about quarterback in a second, but I don't know, man. I just tend to think that this is going to be another really good team. And yes, upsets can happen 100%, but I look at this and I think if you're 2-0, I think they're running the table. So I think
I like it.
Yeah. So, all right. A few super chats. And then we're going to sign off tonight. Mark said, what are your thoughts on the transfer portal so far on the players we're getting? It's pretty good. I mean, Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's how I feel about the receivers. I don't know what to think. I like them, but I liked them before. You know, the defensive linemen, I think, are good. Mike, I mean, I think the Devontae Smith kid's going to be really good. The nickel, Notre Dame just keeps reloading there.
I think he's going to be an excellent player for us. And the last three that we have all been excellent players, and they keep getting
better,
10% better year over year. So I think we'll continue that trend. Malachi Fields is a big, beautiful looking athlete, but to my eye, he's not a burner.
He's not.
He's not. I mean, he's got a lot of build-up speed, kind of a jump ball guy, but you're going to need 3 seconds to get him downfield. Pauling, I don't know if he was needed, just because we have so many slot types already in the program. I do like that Louisville defensive tackle. I watched some of his film a couple nights ago. Like one of those kind of fire plug guys. What is he, 6'1", 310 or something like that? Crazy long arms. I haven't watched the USC kid or the safety that we got. Haven't looked at them yet. But it feels like a better portal class than last year's with Oben, Clark, and the receivers.
Mark, thank you. Bob says, Goolsby, who's quarterback week 1 at Miami?
Oh, dude, we got a whole offseason to talk about it. For $2, you're not getting that answer, Bob.
You can get it from me. It's peanut butter jelly time. Mike Nolan with the 5 says, agree, very tough, especially first half, then at BC at Pitt. Agree with Goolsby. I think much tougher than 24. Fewer gimmies. I don't know, man. It's more than just the gimmies, because Notre Dame lost the biggest gimme of the season. To me, it's just I don't know. I think that Freeman's turned a corner, and I don't know, at BC, at Pitt. I get it, Goolsby's era, but are BC and Pitt? I mean, what was the score last time Notre Dame went to Heinz Field?
I'm just telling you, BC. I don't think they get blown out a lot. I like to bet BC, and I like to bet Syracuse.
Boston College in 2024 went 7-6. They beat Florida State. That Florida State fan then who didn't eat the poop. If you know, you know. It's cursed Florida State Seminoles. Mike, you remember that saga?
What?
Florida State. You don't remember the Florida State fan who, after FSU lost to Georgia Tech, they played BC the next week. The Florida State fan tweeted, "If they lose to BC, I'll eat shit." And then he deleted his account after they lost to BC. You don't remember that?
Was that Danny Cannell?
No, it's just some random guy on Twitter. Anyways, I mean, BC got blown up at Virginia Tech. I mean, maybe they're better than I'm giving them credit for. They lost to Nebraska in a bowl game. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, maybe you guys are convinced me it's a tougher schedule. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Well, the only 2 games that matter. The only 2 games that matter are the first 2. How's that?
No, it's not. I just think if they start 2-0, I think they're going to go 12-0. That is my January 30th thought, Mike, and I hold the right to change my opinion. How about that?
Fair.
All right, Joe said, Mike, what's your dream rotation at linebacker next year? Give me a second on this.
It'll be more of the same. So, I mean, you're going to lose a Jack Kaiser and insert a Madden Ferriamo. We'll see what Bodie Cahoon is. I always Preston Zinter is another name that's kind of in the mix potentially. I always thought he'd be more of a rush guy. There's just such a need for rush guys. So it's like all these kids, when they're thinking about their off-season training, but it'll be more of the same. I mean, the rotation, I don't know what's going to become of Osbury as the games got ratcheted up, Singer, like in the level of talent went up. Osbury's size or lack thereof, length, became really apparent. The last 2 or 3 games in particular, to me, kind of got washed out a lot, missed more tackles than you're accustomed to seeing him do. So But the addition of a Madden Ferriamo, another year of a KVA developing, another year of Snead developing, it's going to be a great unit. I mean, I think linebacker is going to be a strength, and offensive line is going to be a strength.
Mike, we got about 30 seconds on this because I got to run. Peter Pie 5 says, I'm surprised Goolsby doesn't like Pauling more. Isn't he speedy?
Well, there's a difference between speed and quickness, Peter Pie. So I think he's quicker than fast. He's had drop issues. I just don't know if there was a huge need with a Faison and a Great House already on your roster to kind of play a slot.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really good season a couple years ago with Mike Brown at Wisconsin. Not so much without him. So we'll see if he gets back to that form this year. So, Goolsby, fun show. Andy Luis says it was cool meeting you two in person. Both of you hella tall Irish family. Luis was bringing the energy at the tailgate. Luis, it was great meeting you, my friend. Did not expect to meet you, but it was really cool to do so. So I appreciate the 5 there. Goolsby, any other thoughts as we close off the show?
No, sir. I got to get some dinner.
8 o'clock out there.
That's what I'm thinking about.
All right, well, Goolsby, thanks for your time tonight. And folks watching, if you're just tuning in live with us, rewind, watch the beginning of the show. You missed a lot of good stuff, reflecting on the 2024 season, reacting to some news, and then Goolsby and I talking about the 2025 schedule here to wrap things up. So, folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video if you have not done so yet. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Check out the Patreon link in Goolsby's Twitter if you want more Mike Goolsby. Appreciate you guys for watching or listening. And as always, we will catch you next time.